Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So in this tutorial, continue with introduction to SQL with MySQL. Okay, so I've been learning SQL from the very basic beginning. We have looked at different select statements, store procedures, functions, variables, views, and all that. Okay, so we have moved into a section of looking at database design. So we have looked at how to draw ERDs and stuff like that, and discuss primary keys, foreign keys. Now we have moved into the data type. So in this tutorial, we'll be focusing on the string data type. Okay, so if you're new to the channel, please kindly consider subscribing, liking this video, and sharing this content to anyone who you think might find it helpful. So this channel is all about programming. We learn different programming concepts in data analysis, machine learning, Python, web development, back-end development, and stuff like that. So if you're interested in those juicy stuff, please kindly consider subscribing. So let's jump into today's agenda, which is just talking about the different string data types or the textual text data type. Okay, so let's take a look at the recap on the different data types you have in MySQL. We mentioned that we mentioned in the last tutorial that there are mainly four, which are number, numeric types, string types we'll be covering in this video. We will also have date and time types, and also have special types. Okay, so let's move on to the different string types that we have. The different string types can be grouped into four main categories, which are variable and char and varchar, binary and var binary, enumerate and sets, blob and text. So look at all of this just in a second. So under varchar and char, we have char and varchar. So let's take a look at those. So again, we have varchar and varchar. So what's the difference between the two? So the difference is that varchar, character or char is fixed length, right? And it has something called auto prefilling. So for example, let's say we created a varchar that's going to store 4 characters. It's always going to store 4 characters. For example, if you want to store maybe, let's say Anne, right? Anne is A-double-N-A. That's 4 characters, right? And you're specified that we want a varchar of 4 characters. So it's going to go ahead and store for those 4 characters, A-double-N-A. And let's say another person comes and makes a typo and types in Anne as A-N-A instead of double N. So if you use char data type in that case, what it's going to do is that we have one last space left, and that's going to be pre-filled with some values, and that's what char does. That's char, and that's the difference between varchar and char. So varchar stands for variable character, variable length character, or variable length strings. So in this case, there's no pre-filling. For example, if you're trying to store the name Anne, which is going to be Anna, which is going to be A-double-N-A, right? So if you create a varchar of 4 characters, then all the 4 spaces are going to be filled. But if another person comes and makes a typo again and types in A-N-A, which is just Anna, right, instead of the double N, I don't know which one is correct, but let's take that example, right, where the person types in A-N-A. So one space is left, right? So what varchar does is simply it fills those 3 spaces and does not pre-fill the last space, so it saves on memory. So you only use varchar in situations where you know exactly amount of characters you're going to get. So for example, let's take the number plate of cars in a country. That's the number of fixed characters, right? Maybe in your country, the number plate of cars is just let's say 6 characters. I don't know. Let's say 6 characters, right? So in every case, you expect the number plate of a car to be 6 characters. So in this case, it's good to use a varchar. But if you are not sure of something, you can just use a variable. So you can just use a char in case you're storing a number in a char data type, in case you're storing number plates of vehicles. But in cases you're not sure, like the name of a person, you don't know how many characters it's going to be, right? So you can just give a maximum value. We say 100. So if the 100 characters, all the spaces are going to be filled. If there are less 100 characters, you're only going to fill the spaces that the characters occupy and not do pre-filling for the empty spaces. And that's the difference between varchar and char. Okay, so I got this image from the official documentation of MySQL. So if you want, you can just click on the link here, or you can just go ahead and type data types in MySQL, char and varchar, and you just get the documentation on it. Okay, so we also have binary and var binary. Okay, so actually this is actually var binary, my bad, not varchar. So it's var binary, so my bad for the typo. Okay, so what are the differences between the two? So binary is just similar to char, except that it stores binary data, and then var binary is just similar to varchar, and the difference is that it stores a variable length binary values instead of string values. So that's the difference between the two. So you can just take the concepts from char and varchar and then apply it here, but now in the context that you're using a binary values instead of string. So let's move on to and look at the next type, which is going to be blob and blob. Yeah, blob basically. So blob stands for binary large or binary large object, So the B is for binary, L is for large, and then OB stands for object. So binary large object. So it's used to store a large binary object that of big sizes. Big sizes. Okay. So we have four main categories of this. So one is just the blob. We have tiny blob. We have we have a medium blob, and also we have long blob. Okay, so I'm not going to cover into depth about each of these types, because blobs can be used, but they are not that often used, but they are used as well. They're used to store binary objects of large sizes. So if you're thinking of storing a binary object that's of like a large size, like a file or an image, something like that, you can use blob for it, and you can just research more about these data types. Okay, the link you can find, I'll keep the link to the official documentation in the description of the video. You also have text, the text type, which is gonna be, which has four main type: text, medium text, tiny text, text, and long text. Okay, so this text is used to store it's just like blob, but it's used to store now not binary values, but actually text string values, right? Strings, actual string values, and you can store large string values. For example, you are creating a comment section in your blog, right? A user can write many lines of text, so you want to store it in this case text data type. Okay, so that could be a lot of characters, so you don't know how many characters, but it's gonna be a lot of characters, so you can use text for it instead of blob, because blob is mostly for binary. So the equivalent of binary, but for string values, is just text, and it has these four main categories. So you can read about the different categories and then decide on which one to use in case you are creating an application. Okay, so non-binary is just character strings. Okay, so we have the last one being enum, or something like enum, like enumerate, but enum, you just take the first four characters. So this one is a string object with value chosen from a list of permitted values. So for example, you have let's go ahead and let's say, let me just go and everything, if I can find something to use, I can explain to you here. Where we can find, you can see how we have text for comment section. That's true, because there's a large amount of data. Let me just try to find a case they use blob. So images, again, images can use blob because they're binary values, right? Files are binary values. Okay, we have decimals, var character. We look at all this customer. We look at all these different data types already. Employee. We have looked at all this. I'm just trying to find one where I can use enum to explain something to you. Oh, they haven't used enum in this database. Okay, so that's fine. But situations whereby, for example, HTML description is text medium, explained that to you already. Okay, so in some situations you want to control what values can a certain field can have, right? So for example, let's say that you're having a product. If I go ahead into the product, the shipment, I don't know if I get the shipment information. I think it's here. Yeah, for example, here, shipment, right? For example, if you come to the place of status, right? In here, the best option that could have been done, that could have been used, is enum. Okay, not a VARCHAR in this case, because enum, you can control which values can go into the status. Because if you're having a status and a column that indicates, one attribute that indicates status, you might want to have fixed values, right? A status can be either in process, shipped, or cancelled. One of those three categories. So we want to limit the user to be able to just stick to those three categories, because the user can go there and say not shipped, it has been shipped. That's actually, he means something that is correct, but it's in your database, you don't want that inconsistency, right? So you want consistent value, so you can limit the user on what options that he or she can choose from. So that in that case, you use an enum. So that's basically what an enum is for. So if a user types in something that is not listed in the permitted values within the enum, then he gets an error. So if a person says not shipped, then that's wrong, right? So you just say you have to choose from a list of values that I already defined for you. You can specify the values that you want to specify, but in case at the end of the day, are all meaning the same thing, right? So that's basically what enum is for. So you can, in this case, take the product line of the classic model. Like another example, we can give a user limited choices of product lines, right? We have limited choice for product line. We have motorcycles, we have classic cars, we have planes, ships. So a user cannot input a product line that is not, that we don't specify. So anything that the user must specify must be from this product line. So it can either be a classic car, a motorcycle, a plane, a ship, a train, a truck, and buses, or vintage cars. So you're not selling anything outside of this category. So we can limit the user to what he or she can specify. When, for example, when adding a product line, when adding a product information, you can specify which product line it belongs to. We can limit the user to specify exactly what we define instead of the enum, right? So the user does not go ahead and type in just a ridiculous value. So for example, one user might go ahead and say classic car instead of classic cars. That's wrong. So we can use an enum to limit that. So that's how we where we can use enum. So that's all for textual data types in this video. In the next video, we'll be looking at date and time, and also spatial data types. Okay, so guys, if you're new to the channel and you are enjoying this series so far, please kindly consider doing me a favor. Kindly consider liking this video, giving it a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and also share this video with anyone who you think might find it helpful.